back to another episode of Art Life. Welcome to 2023. Today's episode is going to be a catch-up for the last few months, which have been very busy and we've not managed to be updating as much as we like, so there's lots to fill you in on. The most important thing you might notice is that I am currently in a very different studio than the last time you saw me. I've been on an art residency for the last 5 months, busy working, making a whole new body of work since my solo exhibition. So yeah, today I want to really just fill you in on the last couple of months, tell you how the residency has been going, and also fill you in on what happened after the exhibition. So, at my exhibition, I had a brilliant time. I had a sellout show. I sold all of my paintings, bar maybe 1 or 2, which was incredible, which left me with no paintings. So I suddenly had to make an entirely new body of work. Also, we had a bit of unexpected news. Where I found out that we're having a baby. So yes, there he is. Due in like 8 weeks. So the last 5 months have been a mixture of manically planning the arrival of a new artist intern and also trying to get a body of work together while I had the energy and time. So I made the decision to come back to Old Jet in Bentwaters in Suffolk, where I have done a residency before. We did make a video of my time here when I did the residency last time. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to get out of my solitary studio and be with a hub of other artists and people. So there's such a good community here of musicians, writers, painters, photographers. I've rented this space for the last 5 months, and when we moved in, as you can see from some of the video footage we had, it was just this empty room, blank canvas, and I have filled it with what I think is quite an exciting new direction, particularly for my colour palette. I'll fill you in on that later. And I leave this week, so it's kind of my whole pregnancy I've been here, not getting lost in my own head, alone in my studio at home, and I've been able to bounce ideas off other artists, come to work, not procrastinate too much, and just be much more efficient with my time. So I'm really glad I've done this. But obviously, being pregnant, I didn't have the same amount of time to do all my weekly art life updates. So hopefully that's going to change now. And yes, so it'll be really exciting just to walk you through the new body of work, tell you where I am now, and also give you a tour of the space itself. Studio, I'm mostly in the kitchen space, not just to procrastinate and make perpetual cups of tea, but because there's always other artists and creatives milling around, and just kind of people being here to chat to and engage with is so helpful when you've been stuck in maybe a rut with painting, or you've reached a point with your work where you can't push forward. Yesterday I was in here chatting to a new artist in residence. We ended up having an hour-long conversation about different pigments and different effects you can get from mixing different mediums together. And I was kind of sharing how I do it with my kind of practice, and he was offering different advice, and I'm now really interested in researching some of what he was talking about, which would never happen if you just paint alone in your own studio. There's also this lovely way of being able to engage with photographers and writers, and everyone's got something different to offer, and I think I haven't even met everybody yet. In 5 months I feel like I've only met half of a fraction of the people who are here. It's just always a buzz with just interesting people, and I find coming into this space just to have a break from my studio is something that I'm going to really miss when I go back home to my home studio, just because it's kind of got me out of my head and also got me thinking in an expansive way. So I'm going to take you now back through to the stage room and then to my studio. What's really interesting is I was, as you know, here before 2 years ago for my artist in residency space. It is occupied at the moment, so we can't go and have a look, but we made a video when I was using the space, which you can click the link on, and if you want to watch that video and find a little bit more about how doing an artist in residence can help push forward your practice and expose you to so many new things, please check that video out. Okay, so my studio is right next to the stage room, which is used for life drawing every 2 weeks, which has been amazing to have it right on my doorstep. Also, having this massive, big space next to my studio means that I've been able to bring out big works and really stand back from them as I'm making them, just to see how they're going along. Okay, so you've seen the tour and layout of the space. We're back at my studio now, so come on in. It's actually the same size as my studio at home. The main difference is that when I arrived here, I set my intention to use this as an opportunity to completely change my colour palette with my work. You might have seen from an episode 2 weeks ago that we've been in Florence, to Jessie, to the beautiful art store where I was faced with all of these beautiful colours and found greens and pinks when I was in Florence really appetising. So I've used this opportunity to basically paint in colours I never would paint at home. So I wanted to shake things up while still creating a body of work which is kind of sympathetic to my usual practice of slightly abstracted atmosphere studies. The key was using colours I wouldn't use at home, because there's no point doing a residency and not doing anything different. So you want to shake things up, challenge yourselves, get out of your comfort zone. I actually did 2 pieces this size, basically trying to work in colours which aren't native to skyscapes. Green. This piece I called Muse, the other piece I called Meadow. I wanted there to be a whimsical atmosphere, but also something slightly otherworldly about the undulating greens. I felt the richness of that green. It appealed to me because it was kind of going into autumn and winter, and I'll be finishing the residency in deepest, darkest winter, and I'm craving these spring, beautiful pinks and kind of warmer colours now, as we're going to be on the side of 2023, going into spring, summer soon. This is a really good place for me to kind of go into a new palette for the new year. So I've done about 6 Arche paper oil studies. Again, using the pinks and the greens have been a real kind of eye-opener for how I don't need to limit myself with colour as much as I usually do. A couple of these are actually with the framer now, so as soon as they're back from the framer looking all snazzy, I'll be sharing those on Artlife. But it's really nice to just kind of show you my thought process with how I build up to a big body of work. These are kind of the same gestures, the same experiments with colour, but it was really this piece using the green which kind of informed me that it was okay to expand with my colour palettes, and these are all the colours that we picked up in Florence as well. So there's something about this piece which really feels evocative of that very romantic, kind of artistic, inspirational trip we did to Italy, and bringing it back to my studio feels like it gets to live on in that way. So most of my time here has been working on these really large juicy pieces, but I had a side project while I was here. In a little antique shop just around the corner, I found some old vintage beautiful hand-carved wooden frames, and for the first time, usually I make the work and then frame it after. I rarely frame bigger work, but I wanted to kind of experiment commercially with making artwork to frame and sell on my website as a kind of domestic option, not just creating very more modern works, much more airy and flowy, but working to a frame which feels like it has its own history. So I've been just experimenting here. It might not come to anything, but it feels like the beauty of the frame I wanted to create something which would fit with it aesthetically, but also as a challenge, because bad frames can make beautiful paintings look awful. So how do I create something which enhances the frame itself? It makes it into an object, but gives it a kind of beautiful aesthetic which I think could work for an interior designing concept. And I have been chatting to a few interior designers about how colour schemes work in spaces and how artwork and paintings change the space in an interior setting. And framed works in a domestic way are often an important part of that. Usually when people have works at home, they like them framed, they can hang them on the wall, they feel slightly more luxurious. It's not something I have a lot of experience with, so I've wanted to basically just experiment while I'm here with, can I enjoy working with frames, different sizes, working to a particular sort of size and scale which I haven't worked with before, but working with a frame kind of gave me that excuse. So that's just something else I've been working on the side, because when you're working big, sometimes it's quite nice to just work small for a bit and have a kind of breather. So I always recommend having multiple projects on the go at once, because if you're only working on one thing, I think you can get a bit too hyper focused. So it's allowed me to relax more in my practice. Okay, so next, here we have the last two big pieces I've been working on before I leave. So these two canvases I would like to be a diptych together. This piece is actually, I was painting over an old work which hasn't worked as well as I'd liked. The colours have gone a bit kind of sticky, so I will be restretching this one. But this is a great example of where I want to take these two. It's been really relaxing to paint this piece because it just fits on my easel, and being pregnant, it's quite nice to sit down as I paint, going into like the last few weeks of the pregnancy. I want to make it this really rich sort of last days of winter storm. I want there to feel like there's this heavy atmosphere, whereas usually I've been going quite light and airy. I want to be confident in this piece to create something very dense, very rich, very luxurious, but having lots of really iridescent light kind of spilling from the clouds. And as a diptych, I'd love them to be able to either be exhibited together or separately. That light in a state of flux is something I'm always fascinated with. So I want to see if I can create a lot of movement with this piece. I feel a bit like a weather girl talking about the clouds moving. Watch today as the rain comes in. But these skies are so native to Suffolk, and being here at Bentwaters, I'll show you just outside my door right now. It's really all about these big expansive skies. Where we are right now is just in the middle of absolute deepest, darkest Suffolk. The skies change here about every 10 minutes. They're really 360. You feel like completely in another world. And I think just having this right on my doorstep feels like so spacious. And it's an old airbase, Cold War airbase. So there's just this huge expanse of space everywhere, and the kind of deer as we were coming in this morning, it feels like another world, and I feel like that otherworldliness is something I really want to bring into my painting going into the spring. I want people to be able to inhabit the space but also feel like they can get lost in the brushstrokes and colours that I'm making and working with. So these are the last few days in the studio for me, and I'm really pleased with kind of how much I've managed to get done, going back to my home studio with a really fresh approach to colour. I think what will be interesting over the next few weeks on Artlife is to share a few more of our Florence adventures, which I haven't shared with you yet, but also starting this new sort of winter-spring body of work, transitioning from season, the cold, dark atmosphere into fresh air, fresh light, new beginnings, and bringing you along the ride from my research with that, how I'm going to kind of create another side project as I go forward into the sort of summer months this year. I've got so many ideas I want to kind of explore with my painting, and now I'm kind of back into the rhythm of Artlife. I'm so excited to bring you along for the ride. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to share about the video, please do leave it in the comments below. We love to hear back from you. Also, I am on Instagram at JessOliverArt, where I do post regularly on there. So if you have been following me on there, you've probably seen some of these paintings already, but it's really exciting to be able to share you with them as a body of work. So yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for watching, and catch you later, guys. Bye.